Hi, I'm Dave. We are Access Rock, and today we get to talk to Matt from Trivium. How are you today?
Very good. How are you?
I'm fine.
Awesome.
Of course.
Very cool. Very cool.
Of course. You are here to talk about your up-and-coming record.
Yes.
Vengeance of Halls. Are you getting nervous? Are you excited?
No,
Are you anxious?
Thankfully, no nerves, no nothing. We've just been doing a press tour for the last couple of days. It's about a 10-day long press tour, which every time I mention that to friends or family or a couple bands that are maybe just starting off, they're like, what's a press tour?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it's kind of a thing where you just talk about yourself for 8 to 12 hours a day. Feels a little narcissistic at times, but it's cool because we've been able to see what a lot of the reactions of people are, what they think of the record. Today's going to be really cool for us because later at the end of the day, we have a listening party for like 30 Trivium fans that all had to call in and do some kind of contest again. So that's going to be awesome to see what their reactions are because they've only heard 2 songs.
Yeah.
So look forward to seeing what our fans think of the whole record.
What has the reactions been so far? I've seen
It's been really cool. We did, let's see, the first 3 days were 3 days in London, about 8 to 12 hours a day of interviews. And the last day we did a lot of Japanese interviews. That's the ones that I'm really excited about because I love being in Japan. I'm half Japanese, so I'm a little picky about it. But I did about 4 or 5, and they all were saying that it's the best record we've ever had. But what's cool about the Japanese press is they really dig in. They're like, oh, the guitar solo at this part of the song that comes in, what's the third note you're doing, and what note are you harmonizing it with? Questions like that, which are really, really fun because they really dig into it. So it was just really cool to see that. And I've been seeing a lot of mixed interpretations, like good ones. Some people have said this is the heaviest, most brutal album we've ever done. Then some people said, oh, you guys are a lot more melodic and softer. So it's interesting that it's all a matter of how someone interprets this, the same thing, which is always fun to see.
You're actually singing a lot more cleaner on this song, on this album.
Yeah, singing is something that I've always wanted to do in the band. When I first joined the band, I was 12, 13 years old, just going through puberty, so I couldn't even sing that well. I could, however, scream. So the screaming is something I worked at, and I think at about 16, 17 or so, I really nailed my style. I think the screaming style you hear on Ember is essentially the same style you hear on Vengeance Falls. It's just been a little upgraded. But with the singing, I feel like first couple records, I was decent, and then I kept working it up, and then I feel like now more than ever, I feel very confident in my skin as a singer. Before, I always used to call myself a rhythm guitar player who sings and screams, or who screams and sings. And nowadays, I feel very comfortable as a singer, and that's thanks to all the years of shows, all the years of records we've released, and namely due to the last vocal teacher I've had, who's still a vocal coach to me, is David Draymond. He wasn't only a producer for me, but he was a huge inspiration as being a vocal coach, teaching me proper breath technique, how to take care of myself, what to and not to do with the voice. So that was really, really encouraging for me to be able to watch myself grow from the first song we tracked on vocals to the last song we tracked on vocals in this record. The skill set I learned from there on, it was amazing to see that growth in one record alone.
Very, very cool.
Because
I've seen some people who actually say that this is too much groove and that you're not singing the way you should or as you did.
For me, it's
old fans.
I think they're looking for screaming, and for my thing, for people that said, well, Ascendancy is my favorite record. It's like, well, we still play songs off Ascendancy live, so keep coming to the shows. We're still going to play it. For me, I've always wanted to investigate what else I can advance at. I feel like I've mastered my screaming style, so it's time to see what else I can do and see what I've always wanted to do. It's way harder to sing than scream. Screaming is something anyone can learn to do. Anyone can learn to sing, but singing takes a lot more effort than screaming. And there's so much that can be said with vocal notes. What's cool for me is one of my favorite producers of all time, one of my favorite mixers of all time, Colin Richardson, who's done numerous records of ours, done numerous records for bands in the extreme field, amazing bands we're huge fans of. And he said when he first heard the vocals to Brave the Storm that they were the most pissed off vocals he's ever heard me do in my career, which is great because he heard me do Chaos Reigns, and Chaos Reigns is all screamed. At the end of that song, on Waves, I actually was so worked up that I punched the music stand a couple times. You can hear it. You can hear the music stand get smashed. And he said still, Brave the Storm with singing was more intense to him than the screaming of Chaos Reigns. So it's, once again, up to the ear of the beholder. Some people who miss the old style, I just say, put the old record on. Listen to the old record.
True.
Yeah.
True. Very true. What was the thought starting to create this record? What did you think you were going to do, and did it end up the way you thought it would be?
For us, it was all about making the kind of songs we wanted to hear as metal fans. We, thankfully, slightly before In Waves, we regained the mentality of we're going to make the music we want to hear. We're not going to worry, are people going to like this? Are people going to not like this? Let's just make what we want to hear and go back to the roots of where our heads were for our first 2 records. Because our first 2 records, we didn't have fans. So we just made the kind of music we wanted to make, and people really liked that kind of music. The Crusade, there was a conscious effort to be different from our previous stuff, to be different from ourselves, Shogun, we went into it wanting to make very technical music. In Waves, like, let's make what we want, but let's embrace simplicity. And the new record, we didn't care what would happen. Let's just make the best songs we can. So looking back at it now, I hear all the best ingredients of every record we've ever done stuffed into one.
And you also toured the world in between, so you've picked up a lot of influences.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, you can be influenced from everything. You know, a big thing people hear me talk about a lot is food. And I know that seems crazy to bring up as an influence, but it really is. I think that never do you learn more where a people or a country come from than by enjoying what they enjoy, by eating what they eat, drinking what they drink, and doing what they do. And that's a huge part for me. Everywhere I am, I want to do what the locals do, and I want to eat what they eat, drink what they drink, and see what they see.
And you make it into an angry song.
No. Thankfully, well, that stuff will make me, you know, put me in a good mood. So then a good mood make me want to pick up guitar, write the music to it, and then I can put the vocals on top of that. And with this record, yeah, it is a very angry record. It's a very dark record. It's about calling for the vengeance and the retribution to be wreaked upon those who deserve it. And as intense as that is, for me, there's a lot of bad stuff that happens in the world. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens to people, human on human atrocity, people killing people all the time, anytime you turn the news from anything in the world. The way I address that, the way I coped with that, and the way I've always coped with that is creating art, creating music. I feel like if I didn't have that outlet, I would probably end up like some of the people who lose their minds, hurting themselves or others around them. And I want this record to show people, even though it is such a dark, angry record, that you need to put those energies, those negative energies into something, whether that's a skill, a hobby, an interest, an art form, poetry, lyrics, words, anything. You need to put that into something. You can't just let it, you can't harbor it or something bad will happen. No. And I hope that this inspires people to do that, because you can see a lot of these horrible things I think that happen to people around the world is because those people didn't have an outlet. They didn't feel like they could reach out to anyone. They didn't feel like they can find help in a friend or family member or create something. But you always can, and it's never a weakness to ask for help.
Very true, very true. If you didn't have music, what would you do? Like a hobby,
I would have to find,
anything.
I guess it'd be food.
Food.
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself a cook.
A chef.
Yeah, I consider myself now, I'm a cook. I'm not a chef now, but I think if I put the same amount of energy that I put into music, I'm kind of an extremist. Everything I pick up that I do to the full. So when I got into food, I started getting straight into like intense food, like organ meat and stuff that isn't really for everyone. And then with music and with metal, it's going into the most extreme factions of subgenres of metal and learning about everything that I can. Not just those extreme things, but going all the way to that end and all the way to the opposite end and finding out everything in between. So probably food. Yeah. But luckily things keep going up with the band, so looks like I won't have to worry about another thing inside.
What do you do on a day off? What would Matt do?
On a day off on tour or a day off at home?
At home.
At home, I know it sounds like I'm talking about, but there's a reason. So when I went to Brazil for the first time on tour, I fell in love with the place. I fell in love with their food and their drinks and their culture, and I wanted to do what Brazilians do. And I asked around, what do Brazilians do? And they said, well, soccer and jiu-jitsu. So I was like, well, I've never really played like a sport, so I'll give jiu-jitsu a shot. So thanks to me loving Brazil so much through their cuisine at first, I got into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's something that I've been doing just for like health and for that kind of stuff at home. And so at home, it's been that and cooking and yoga and weightlifting and trying to stay fit for touring, making sure I'm at least warming up or practicing vocals once a day and guitar once a day while I'm off tour to keep my chops up. And then if it's time to relax, then I'm laying on the couch with my dog, who's a French bulldog. She's very, very spoiled.
Oh,
She is well loved, and so me and her usually lay around and watch TV.
Okay. Excellent.
Yep.
I've talked to some people who actually say you have some pretty neat tricks for keeping your vocals fresh.
Oh, yep, my good buddy. I know who told you that. Yeah, it's just little things that I've learned through asking other singers and kind of piecing together and trial and error for what worked for them to what may work for me. And Draymond originally is one of the people that taught me the most useful tip, which was for me cutting myself off of any kind of food and drink other than water 3 hours, 4 hours before a set. He cuts himself off, I think, like 4 hours. I cut myself off 3 hours, which is very difficult for me to do because it's something I love so much. But the big thing I realized is on tour, I kept like losing my high range. Like it was like the earlier part of a drum, maybe towards the Crusader and Waves or something. Just something I would notice, not something the crowd could hear, but I could hear that the quality wasn't all there. Okay. And I realized I was through acid reflux. So you figure anytime anyone's singing or screaming, your diaphragm is pushing up whatever's in there. And even if people are like, oh, I don't have reflux, I don't have any heartburn, it doesn't always come in that form. For me, it would come in the form of that I'd lose the top range of my singing, and that clarity wouldn't fully be there. So I started cutting myself off 3 hours before a show and taking an acid reducer before singing. I know this all sounds very geeky, but those are some little tips I've learned. I don't know if I'm pretty sure I shared that with Roxy. I think I told him that. But the trifecta of vocal ingredients, lemon, ginger, and honey, those are some of the best things you can do. Across the entire record, I was drinking throat coat tea all the time, every day, but at room temperature. That was something David taught me as well. You know, drinking that because it has the proper natural herbs and things that coat the voice and keep the voice healthy and keep the voice lubricated. And if you do it hot or cold, it can shock the vocal cords. But some dudes can smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day, not warm up, scream talking all day, and sing like angels on stage. And those are the anomalies. I can't do that. My warm up is about 3 hours long before every show. Vocal warm up's only 15 to 30 minutes, but there's at least 15 to 60 minutes of yoga before every single show.
Okay.
You know, little things.
Little things. Yoga. That is kind of also not really comparable to the music.
Yep.
But you were open about this.
Oh yeah. I started practicing Ashtanga yoga about 3 years ago. Okay. And I feel like every big thing I picked up that I've kind of gone to the full with has changed my life in a good way. Yoga was a great outlet for me. It kept me positive, and I would do it 5 to 7 times a week when I first got into it. And that was the only thing I was doing. I was just doing Ashtanga yoga, nothing else. No weights, no cardio, just yoga. And it kept me in a good headspace during In Waves. I mean, In Waves also deals with some, I guess every record does. That's why we're in metal. That's why people who love metal, because you can vent about things you can't in normal life or in other styles of music in metal. So yoga was what I would be doing. I remember I was doing like headstands before doing the vocals on In Waves. Like I was actually doing that, or doing like an inverted shoulder stand for 5 or 10 minutes because inversions, anytime the body's inverted and the heart is above the brain is pumped with more blood, more oxygen than usual. So there's scientific reasons why yoga poses help certain things. So I guess I felt like I had more brain power because there was more blood in there because it wasn't all in my stomach. And with this album, it's been a combination of all the physical activities I've been mentioning. So it's just everyone has to find something for their day, for their crazies, for whatever it may be. You know, I've got metal and food and all that physical stuff. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, I do a lot. My day is filled with a lot, typically.
You're very, very close to your fans. You speak to them and you answer them on your Facebook and Twitter and everything. Yeah, we exist thanks to the people that support us, and we never forget that. And that's one of the reasons why I always want to do what they do when I'm in their home countries. I want to experience the same kind of day that they would experience. You actually spoke to me in Swedish, in a very good Swedish. Thank you very much. You have to share this. Tjena läget, vi är Trivium. That's usually what I say, we are Trivium. That's awesome. What else do I know? Skål. Tack så mycket. Vi ses snart. I'd like to thank In Flames for all of that. They've been trying to teach me more. You know, we've done like 10 tours together, and what's amazing for me as a fan of metal as well, In Flames is a band that I always cite Trivium would not exist without. You know, if I didn't get into the Jester Race and Horacle, then eventually their entire catalog, we wouldn't have started writing the way we wrote. And it's great for me to be able to see a band that I grew up as a fan of, who then became great friends of ours. I consider them one of the closest friends of any bands that we know. So I do need to learn more, but it's like I'm learning a new word of all these different languages at the same time, all the time. So it's hard to keep up with one. Like when I'm in Germany, someone's like, oh, you can't speak German yet? Because I'm getting like a new word every single time. Yeah, it's great. You need to get a coach. Yeah, I think it's important for bands to like not only know where their fans are coming from, but be able to say something in the language, you know. And I think that's all bands are always trying to, or not even just trying, but like actually speaking English when they come to America. So it's the least American bands or British bands can do, or English speaking bands can do. Hey, this is Matt from Trivium, and you're watching Access Rock.